Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
TurboGrafx 16 from NEC, the higher energy video game system.
When you've got Sega Saturn, nothing else matters.
Sega!
Xbox Live. It's good to play together.
We would like to play.
So another month has gone by, therefore a new monthly pickups video. I'm very happy to show you guys this. There are 6 games, mostly due to the fact that the last one is a game that I was really hesitant about for a long time, and I finally caved, and I'm very glad I got it. The others are mostly retro, and games I've kind of held out on getting. One's a new release, so I hope you guys enjoy this newest video, and give me your thoughts on these latest pickups. The first game I got this month is Song of the Deep. It's a Metroidvania style game, and it reminds me much like Ori and the Blind Forest. In fact, almost exactly like it. What's interesting is it was developed by Insomniac Games, the same people who made Ratchet & Clank, and it's published by GameStop of all people. It's their first try into game distribution, and it's a good one. It's a fairly short game, but it's quick and to the point. It's got this two-dimensional side-scroller thing going on, and the plot is simple, but it really gets you grasped into who the character is and why they're doing what they're doing. Our character Marin grew up loving her father, as many of us do, whom was a fisherman and goes lost on one of his adventures. One day she has kind of a dream of her father being trapped in the ocean somewhere. So after this dream, she gets this ambition to build a submarine out of scrap and traverse the ocean. And slowly she discovers that most of her father's stories are true, and you get to experience the journey right there with her. It's beautiful. Just like Ori, the more you play the game, you have to go back and forth to certain areas with the new mechanics or weapons that you get throughout the adventure. I love this game. I can't wait to play it more, and I hope more people play this game. It was very successful, at least by GameStop standards, so who knows, maybe we'll see more games like this in the future. If I were to take something away from this game, it would definitely be the visuals. I love the art style, but I also love the subtle music that goes along with the game. Now, it did get mixed reviews and even bad reviews, but I don't see why. Maybe it's just because it's a small game. I hope this doesn't deter from more of these games coming out. Definitely get it. It's affordable, no problem. So this next one here was on my radar for quite a while as a Master System enthusiast, or just a Sega enthusiast. It's called Kenshin. In English it means Legend of the Swordmaster. It's an action role-playing game which reminds me if the creators took Shinobi and had a love child with Ninja Gaiden. It's got that playstyle of Shinobi, which makes sense since it's on the same system, but it's got the difficulty that of Ninja Gaiden. It's almost quite frustrating how a game can look this good and yet be so frustrating I don't want to play it anymore. Needless to say, Kenshin is a must-have for the Master System after playing this. Yes, it takes a long time to practice, but it's very good. There are 16 levels to choose from. The enemies are that reminiscent of old Japanese folklore, and even the levels represent old Japanese provinces back in the day, when they still had all that Edo stuff going on. The plot is pretty simple. Your main dude here, Hayato, has to fight against all these warlocks and evil spirits that plague the 16th century Japan, and the warlocks stole 5 secret scrolls, and you have to get it back from the Dragon Lord. Well, the Dragon Lord is, of course, the last boss. You have to fight 6 bosses before him, but the interesting thing is once you beat a level, you can choose any of the other adjacent provinces, so you don't have to it's not just automatic, you get to choose it. I thought that was a very good concept for a game this old. It's almost Mario 3-esque, you might say. The game got very good reviews, but because of its high difficulty level, a lot of people stray from the game, and that's what some negative reviews would say about it. Basically, if you're a Master System collector, this is for sure a game to have. And if you are into the side-scrolling action platformers, this is also another game to get. I love it. You should too. So here's a PlayStation title called Vagrant Story, developed and published by Square. Now this is a very special title. It's an action RPG, yet more or less like the previous game I got a couple months ago, Parasite Eve, in the fact that it has a real-time pausable combat system. It's very interesting. The plot in this game is incredibly deep. I mean, the first half hour of this is mostly just cutscene, but it doesn't go kind of in that Final Fantasy-esque where it stays... The cutscenes stay with the sprites in their actual size and shapes. So that's interesting. That's an interesting aspect that Square decided to make with this game. The story centers around Ashley, who's been falsely accused of murder in this fictional, medieval, European town. And the story takes place a week before the murder, and you slowly get to experience all these events happening with Ashley. And how the Parliament involved with the Duke and this wild cult all sort of comes together. The game has puzzle-solving elements, strategy elements. It's all in this third-person perspective. It's very different how all of it's kind of molded together, and it works very well. I was actually quite surprised. I've only read about this game, so this was kind of a blind buy, you could say. But I'm a big fan of Parasite Eve, so when you finally do get to go in and out of the battle systems, it kind of plays like a rhythm game almost, where you have to chain attacks together to deal more damage to the enemy. It's pretty crazy. I'm very happy I picked this title up in the end. I have no regrets, and I can't wait to see where how the story unfolds. So on a lighter note, or a side-scrolling beat-em-up note, is a Capcom game for the Super Nintendo called Final Fight. It's a fairly common cart, but I've wanted this game for quite a while since I'm a big fan of Streets of Rage series, and this did not disappoint. It is just nonsense. You choose between a couple characters, it's a classic gang steals girl and you have to get girl back. And the game's crazy. It was actually a sequel to Street Fighter, and it was gonna be a 2D fighter, but because of Double Dragon's success, they made it into the side-scrolling beat-em-up, and the same team would actually go on to make Street Fighter 2. So I guess we have Final Fight to thank for that. I mean, what else is there to say about a game like this other than there are 6 stages or rounds? You get to go to bonus rounds if you do well enough. There are boss battles at the end of each stage, and all the sprites are very well drawn. The music's intense. It gets you into it, gets your heart pumping. I mean, it's just plain fun. I was actually surprised about the depth in the fighting mechanics. Obviously, you have your punch and kick attacks and your light ones, but with the layout of the Super Nintendo controller, you can actually do a lot more. By combining buttons and whatnot, you can attack differently, you can jump, you can grab the enemies. It kind of reminds me of a game that would come out later on, say, the PlayStation or even the PS2. The game was very advanced for its time, at least that's my opinion of it. But in the end, I would say Final Fight is just one of those games to pick up and play, and we just don't get a lot of those these days. It's just a nonsense game that you can just play with your friends and just trade off. I'm so happy I have this game now. Now, my next title is for the PC Engine, or Turbo 16. It's called Momotaro Katsugeki. And it's kind of a take on the Peach Boy story from Japan. Think of it kind of like a Hansel and Gretel story that we may know. It's a platformer with a lot of comedic elements. It's developed by Hudson Soft, as many games are for the system. And the story is very simple. You're Peach Boy here, and he has to go liberate treasures from demons. So there you go. The game has a Super Mario 3 style map, but it's still a linear path. But you do have the option to backtrack later to get more coins and, you know, get your weapon upgrades and whatnot, because you need to get the coins in order to get stronger, you could say. So there's a little role-playing elements there. At the beginning, the platforming is hard. If you have the turbo controller, you have to just basically keep it on its basic functions. Otherwise, Momotaro there, Peach Boy, will just jump and not go anywhere. What's really funny, though, is the enemies are dancing sometimes, or when Momotaro dies, he just angel wings up in full frontal nudity. So no wonder it didn't really make it to the States. There are checkpoints available, which are the statues you see. I didn't understand it. I just assumed that they were checkpoints, which is actually quite good. The bosses are pretty tough, actually. Your first boss you face is this devil robot who's wearing a loincloth, and you have to somehow hit him and jump simultaneously. And since it's only a 3-hit death system, it's quite challenging. So I guess this is the way the game teaches you to battle later stages, is you can't really get anywhere until you beat the previous stage. I like that about this game. So in short, I really like this. It's a simple platformer. It really reminds me of Wonder Boy games on the Master System, and it even has that art style that's very similar. Naturally, because it's the PC Engine, it's a little bit more crisp. Maybe I'm just a sucker for platformers, but if you got a PC Engine, I really highly recommend looking this game up. I think there's a lot to love about Peach Boy here, and I hope you guys give him a chance too. The boss battles take some practice, but hey, it's a platformer. So I did it. I caved. I got The Witcher 3. Now, a lot of my friends know I was really against getting this game. I thought it wasn't for me. I've played the first Witcher. I just wasn't into it. I thought it was in that same game style as the Dragon Age Inquisition type style games or the Elder Scrolls. They're just not for me. But I went over to a friend's house, I tried out the demo, and, you know, after a good try, I was sold. The story is so grasping to the player. It's one of those once-in-a-generation type games that I just didn't know. I feel like I really missed out when this game first came out, but I wouldn't be able to play it anyways because I didn't have the PS4. After playing this game, so many things stand out, from the character details, the plot, the character development. It's almost like you're experiencing a movie. It's got that grasp that Uncharted 2 really had. I'm so disappointed in myself that I'm not playing this until now. I'm playing it currently with the PlayStation headphones, and the fact that I could hear something as simple as grass rustling in the distance is absolutely breathtaking. The amount of depth in the game and detail is also breathtaking. That has to be the word to describe this game. Even at the beginning, you're into just the cinematic cutscene, and you're learning the characters. I feel like I'm watching an episode of Game of Thrones almost. It's really quite incredible. The game is so big that it took me like 3 hours just to beat the first mission / boss. But all throughout it, I never felt like everything was a task that, say, the Elder Scrolls games seemed to do to me. I'm so happy I have this game. I'm sorry to my friends that I didn't get it until now, but man, I have it now, and I'm so happy. And if you were in the same boat as me, I say cave yourself and definitely get this game, because you're in for an adventure, to say the least. Yeah, so those were the 6 games. The Witcher's amazing. We just went through that. Song of the Deep has been getting pretty below average reviews, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because the gameplay may get stale to some people, but if you've played Ori and the Blind Forest, this game is just perfect for you. And then the retro games are just kind of games I've been holding out on. Momotaro was actually a pleasant surprise. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you look forward to the end of August.